Hey everybody, and welcome back to the show. Today I'm very excited to be making a new video for you and discussing something we haven't talked about before, and that's the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance. And I really enjoy these systems very much. I don't have a large collection at all, but I still really enjoy playing what I have. I'm always on the lookout for new things. Today we're going to talk about how I like to play the Game Boy, the different systems that we have here, and also how we store them. And we'll start there. I use just a 3-ring binder with these like baseball card collector plastic sheets, whatever we want to call those. That's how I do it. Helps me keep them all in one place. I could flip through them and look through them very easily. Yes, that is how I do that. So why don't we start talking about the Game Boy first. And I got 3 games for the Game Boy, as pathetic as that sounds, but we'll start there nonetheless. Here's a game you might not have heard of before. It's Tetris. We don't need to tell you about Tetris, do we? Obviously that made a huge splash. Super Mario Land. Fantastic game. It's very different from Super Mario Brothers, isn't it? Yeah, but great nonetheless. There's some shooter stages in this, if you weren't aware. I know I wasn't the first time I played it. Love the music. And an excellent Zelda game, Link's Awakening. Fantastic game. I can't recommend this enough. Excellent Legend of Zelda game. With really memorable music, great story, love it. Now we move on to the Game Boy Color. So just a few games here. We have Mario Golf, which we also have for the Nintendo 64. Let's see, Cubics Racing Robots, which reminds me of that unlicensed Nintendo game Micro Machines. Where you're racing through familiar settings, but you're miniaturized. Yes, okay. Super Mario Brothers Deluxe. Very, very interesting game. Obviously, you have the original Super Mario Brothers, but you have tons of unlockables and mini games and features. You have extra modes of play. I think the Lost Levels is an unlockable on here, if I'm not mistaken. You've got different challenge modes where they place red coins or a Yoshi egg, a secret Yoshi block somewhere in the stages. And there's I don't know, I think there's a calendar feature in here. Yeah. Who's using that? Harry Potter. I couldn't get into this game at all. I mean, it's a turn-based strategy, turn-based role-playing game actually, which I love, but not this one in particular, no. And this I was playing a few months back, and I was actually impressed. Scooby-Doo Classic Creep Capers. This is like a point-and-click mystery game, very similar to almost like Maniac Mansion on the NES. So I kind of got into that, and I couldn't put it down for a while. Very impressed and surprised by that. You're thinking it's a Scooby-Doo game. How good can it be? Not too bad. And now let's move on to the Game Boy Advance. First one here is Mario Kart Super Circuit, which is, I would recommend it, if you're a Super Mario Kart fan, 2D, Super Mario Kart fan especially. It's its own thing, kind of. The karts don't control quite like you think that they should from Super Mario Kart and, Mario Kart 64. All new courses. I mean, of course, what am I saying that you don't already expect? But some people are a little bit turned off by this version. I think it's worth playing. Next we have Ice Climber. Just the Nintendo game Ice Climber. Just a port from the Nintendo. And speaking of the Nintendo, I did a review of this last summer. I've mentioned it a few times. It's this multi-cart. 150 Nintendo games on this multi-cart with save slots on this little postage stamp sized cartridge here. So this is fantastic. Bring this on vacation, have this as one of your games. Really helps get that Nintendo fix. Namco Museum. I mentioned that I love these compilation type cartridges. Did a video about multi-carts in general and compilations, and I mentioned this. Namco Museum has 5 classic Namco games. Galaxian, Galaga, Pole Position, Miss Pac-Man, and Dig Dug. I think I got them all. Yeah. Next, Robotech, the Macross Saga. It's a shooter. It's not great. Easy to beat. A little too simple for my taste. I like simple games. In fact, one of my favorite games on the Nintendo is Star Force, which is way simpler than this, but that has a charm to it, which this one does not. This is a side-scrolling shooter. The thing that bugs me about it is you get power-ups, but then they go away after like 10 seconds. So that's kind of off-putting. And some of the stages are where you're kind of roaming around top-down, like in a rover or a mech. So that helps break up the monotony a little bit, but I think the thing that bugged me about this game the most was the power-up system and that they are timed. It could have been a better game, I think. It's the Japanese version of, well, it's Super Mario Bros. 2. Nintendo came out with all of these Game Boy Advance Super Mario game cartridges, like this one, for instance. Super Mario Bros. 3 on the Game Boy Advance. But if you look up at the top, Super Mario Advance 4, they came out with a series of 4 of these. So this gets ultra confusing. Super Mario Advance 4 is Super Mario Bros. 3. This is Super Mario Bros. 2, but I don't know which, this is like Super Mario Advance. This might be Super Mario Bros. Advance. And then they also have a version that's Super Mario World, and another one that I can't think of off the top of my head. But these are really fun, with extra features in each one of those as well. We took a trip to Japan a bunch of years ago, and I picked that up. Next, I have 2 Legend of Zelda games here. It's Link to the Past, which is the same as the Super Nintendo game, except this one has the 4 swords, which you can play with some friends if you have a link cable. I never did that, but great to have on the road. Obviously one of the best games of all time. Here is an underrated gem, if you ask me. It's Legend of Zelda, the Minish Cap. And the art style of this is really Wind Waker-ish. It's almost like a 2D Wind Waker-ish art style. And I think it was co-developed by Capcom. And a lot of the music comes from kind of enhanced versions from the original Legend of Zelda and Ocarina of Time as well. There's some elements from that, and also Link to the Past. And unfortunately, this is one of those games where if you're shopping for it online, be careful because it's gone up in value significantly. There's some folks out there trying to cash in on really good fakes. So be careful about that, but nonetheless, I would still highly recommend that game. And we're down to the last few here. It is Final Fantasy IV on the Game Boy Advance. And this is a port of the US Super Nintendo game Final Fantasy II. Love the game. It's not my favorite Final Fantasy game. That would be Final Fantasy III or Final Fantasy VI in Japan. But this is a close second. Next is Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, which is turn-based RPG game. Really, really funny game. Lots of cool interactions and, you know, points in the game that make you chuckle with the dialogue. And it's sort of a puzzle game actually as well. It's like a puzzle RPG where to traverse through the world you gotta, you know, jump on Luigi's back, or you gotta do different things with Mario and Luigi to switch off and take turns and do different things. So that's a lot of fun as well. And last here is Metroid Fusion. I think there's 2 Metroid games on the Game Boy Advance, Metroid Fusion and, what is it, Metroid Zero Mission? I hope I have that right. And that is a reskin version of the original Metroid with a map, which is great. But this is its own thing. Really interesting. It's a Metroid game, as you would expect, where you're like a rat in a maze, just like every other Metroid game. But at different points of the game, you're being chased by like another Samus-looking dude. Very mysterious. Very cool. And last, I want to go into how I like to play these games. So first thing I have here, which is a must, is the Super Game Boy, which is a peripheral for the Super Nintendo, and it allows you to play your original Game Boy games on your Super Nintendo. So what you do is you just pop it up there and you pop it in and you're good to go. When you play your Game Boy games on this, it allows you to do all kinds of palette adjustments and colors. There's like, you know, there's like 40 pre-saved color palettes, which really gives you the opportunity to kind of freshen up the look of these games. Highly, highly recommend that. And one more thing is that it does not support Game Boy Color games, which is unfortunate. Only original Game Boy games. I wanted to mention that as well. And next is the Game Boy Advance SP. This is the AGS-001 version. There were 2. There's also an AGS-101, which has a backlit screen. This unfortunately does not. But very ultra portable. It folds so you can protect the screen. This not only supports Game Boy Advance games, but it also lets you play original Game Boy games and also lets you play your Game Boy Color games. So this is the most versatile means of playing the games that I have, except it is unfortunate that it doesn't have a backlit screen. It has a button to illuminate the screen slightly, but it doesn't have the enhanced backlit screen. And the last way I have of playing these games, which is arguably my favorite, is the DS Lite. There is the Nintendo DS, the DSi, and this is the DS Lite. So not only does it have a slot for your DS games, which we'll get into in an entirely different episode, it lets you play your Game Boy Advance games. The screen on top is fantastic, certainly better than my Game Boy Advance SP. So this is sort of my preferred method of playing the Game Boy Advance games for sure. And that is probably about all I want to say today about my Game Boy collection. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm interested in knowing what Game Boy or Game Boy Color or Game Boy Advance games you recommend. There's a lot that I have on my wish list, but I'm always looking for kind of hidden gems and surprises, much like this Scooby-Doo game, for instance. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you soon. Take care.